Yes, good morning students. So in this class we are going to see about functions of company secretary. Page number 295. The functions of company secretary classified into two major heads, namely statutory functions and non-statutory functions. Statutory function in the sense the functions to be performed by the company secretary of various enactments of the Companies Act, namely Companies Act of 1956, that is recent amendment 2013, Income Tax Act, Indian Stamp Act, Sales Tax Act and other enactments. So when the secretary performed all the functions as per all these acts, which are all common under the statutory functions. The other functions, that is the non-statutory functions, play an important role as relation to the directors, relation to the shareholders, then relation to the officer, relation to office staff. So the non-statutory functions related to the directors, then towards the shareholder, and in connection with the officer. Now we are going to see one by one in detail. First of all, as per the Companies Act of 2013, what are the functions to be performed by the secretary? Number one, to sign the document and other proceedings regarding the requirements of the authentication by the company, or the authentication of the company only by signing of the secretary. That means to sign and the proceeding of various requisites of the authentication by the company. Second one, to maintain the various registers, namely shareholders register, director register or register of directors, and various register, various contract of the company. That is register of contracts. So number one, shareholders, directors and the contract of company. So to maintain the various register. Next one, notice to register, to issue the notice to the registrar to increase the share capital of a company. So the company secretary issue notice to the registrar to raise the share capital of the company. Then to deliver the share certificate to the shareholders after the transfer of 2 months, 2 months after the transfer. Deliver the share certificate to the shareholders 2 months after the transfer. Then to sign in the annual return and send it to same the relevant person. To sign and send the annual return. The statutory declaration to the registrar for getting of commencement of business certificate. There is the need of statutory declaration from the company for getting of commencement of business certificate from the registrar of the company. What do you mean by commencement of business certificate? So the previous one is incorporation certificate. After getting of incorporation certificate from the registrar, a private company can start the business. But in case of public limited company, can get another important certificate which is known as commencement of business certificate. So in such a case, the secretary has to give declaration on behalf of the company with the registrar to get the commencement of business certificate. Then to send the notice or issue of notice to the shareholders and the board of directors regarding the conducting of meeting. If it is general meeting, to the shareholders. If it is board of directors meeting, means notice to board of directors. So notice to be served to the relevant person regarding the general body meeting or board of directors meeting on the relevant dates. Then maintaining of various statutory books. So the number of registers or books to be maintained by the company all to be maintained by the register. It is another important function of the secretary. Then preparing of minutes within 30 days of the general body meeting and the board meeting. Then file a resolution during the period of meeting or at the meeting. The resolution has been passed by the board of directors or the shareholders. That should be filed with the registrar. Any resolution that are passed in the meeting, that should be filed with the registrar of the company. It is the duty of the company secretary to file a resolution with the registrar. Then statement of affairs at the time of winding up of company. So you know the meaning of winding up of the company, that is closure of the business. When the company unable to pay the debts, that means the excess of liability over the asset. In such a circumstances, the company will be coming to end as winding up of the company. So in such a circumstance, you have to prepare the statement of affairs. So the 11th standard, you have studied about the statement of affairs in the singularity system in the accounts. So statement of affairs can be prepared at the beginning of the year and also ending of year. To find out the opening capital, to prepare the opening date on the opening date, and to find out the closing capital, prepare at the ending date. So statement of affairs to be prepared at the time of winding up of the company. And the next one is, these are the various provisions to be followed under the Companies Act of 2013. These are the various functions or the duties of the company secretary performed under the Companies Act of 2013. And the next one is responsible deduction under the important duty of the company secretary as per the Income Tax Act. So Income Tax Act was passed in the year 1961. As per the Indian Income Tax Act of 1961. Income Tax Act was passed in the year 1961. According to this act, the secretary is responsible for the various deductions of the salary of the employees as well as the interest and dividend of the shareholders. So he is the responsible person for the various deductions and also ensure about the deposition of same the deductions at the government treasury. So not only deductions with the employee's salary and also ensure about the deductions are deposited properly at the government treasury. So it is the duty of the company secretary. So company secretary is responsible person to deduct the various sources of income as per the Income Tax Act of 1961 and ensure the same deductions to deposit it into the government treasury. The next one, another important duty as per the Indian Stamp Act. Indian Stamp Act was passed in the year 1899 for the first time. Indian Stamp Act was passed in the year 1899. Then after that, so many amendments was taken place in the year 1961 also. So that ensure the fixing of sufficient amount of stamps on the various documents prepared by the or maintained by the company. So the secretary ensure about the fixation of stamps on the various documents of the company. For example, letter of credit and share certificate. So all the documents should be affixed to the value of sufficient amount of value of stamps on the document. If it is not affixed, means the documents are invalid one. So it is the duty of the company secretary to ensure about the affixation of stamps on the various documents. Then ensure the timely submission of various sales tax and also payment of taxes to the sales authority. So timely submission of sales tax return to the sales tax authorities, sales tax return to the authorities and also payment of the sales tax. important things: ensure the timely submission of sales tax return and also the payment to the sales tax authorities. So the Sales Tax Act was passed in the year 1956. Sales Tax Act was passed in the year 1956. Then after a lot of amendments also taken place. So this is to be performed by the Secretary as per the Indian Stamp Act of Indian Sales Act of 1956. So Companies Act 2013. Next one, Income Tax Act 1961. Indian Stamp Act 1899, Sales Tax Act 1956. So these are all the various duties performed by the Company Secretary as per the various enactments. Apart from that, the Company Secretary is also comply with or fulfill with the various provisions. Minimum Wages Act of 1948. Indian Industrial Dispute Act of 1947, Indian Employee State Insurance Act of 1948, Factories Act of 1948, and 1965, Bonus Act of 1965. So all the provisions of this act, the Company Secretary fulfill the complaints on the provisions. Minimum Wages Act ensure the minimum wages to the employers, workers. That should be followed according to the Minimum Wages Act of 1948. Then, if there is any dispute among the laborers or among the employees or between the management and the workers, that should be solved according to Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. Then, Employee State Insurance Act 1948. Indian Factories Act of 1948, then Bonus Act of 1965 and other labor laws. So the kingpin of the company is a Company Secretary. So the Company Secretary fulfill all the duties or the functions as per the various statutory provisions. So these provisions to be submitted, this provision has to be fulfilled by the Company Secretary as a statutory functions. Statutory functions: 2013 Companies Act, 1961 Income Tax Act, 1899 Indian Stamp Act, Sales Tax Act 1956. Apart from the various enactments also passed the fulfillment of the functions by the Company Secretary, which are all come under the statutory duties. Then the next topic is non-statutory duties or functions in relation to director, in relation towards the shareholders and towards the office. Number one, what are the various functions to be performed towards the director or in relation to director? So the director is give necessary advice to the board of director. The secretary has to give necessary advice to the board of director for various formulation of policies and taking of necessary decision and implement the decision, formulate the plans and arriving of decision and implement the decision by the board of directors. So necessary guidelines or advice given to the board of directors. Then arrangements for meeting, conduct of meeting, regarding that issuing of notice to the shareholders or the board of directors, in this case board of directors. So issuing of notice to the board of directors, preparing of agenda, recording of attendance of the directors who are attend the meeting and preparing of minutes, that is the transactions that are taking place at the time of meeting and passing of resolution at the meeting. These are the various duties to be performed by the Company Secretary. So issuing of notice to the board of directors, prepare the agenda, conduct the meeting, recording of attendance, preparing of minutes and passing of resolution. Apart from that, maintenance of various registers or correspondence, files and other documents. It is another important duty of the secretary to maintain the important correspondence, files, document and the register. These are the non-statutory functions performed by the secretary in relation to directors. Then the function related to the shareholders. The secretary has to make necessary arrangements for issuing of allotment letters, regret letters, call letters. So allotment letters means those who apply the share, when they get the allotment of shares, in such a case they have to issue the secretary has issued the allotment letters to the allottees. Suppose if the applicant does not get any allotment, so in such a case he has to issue the regret letters to the applicants. We are unable to allot the shares to you. Like that he has to issue the regret letters to the applicants. After the allotment stage is over, he has to issue the secretary has issued the call notice, call letter to instruct to pay the call money amount. After that, issuing of share certificate, share warrant to the shareholders, and making necessary arrangements for conducting of meeting like board of directors, issuing of notice to meeting of to the shareholders, preparing of agenda and minutes, also resolutions, passing of resolution. Apart from that, he has to file the complaints, receive the complaints and send the reply to the shareholders. If there is any inquiries or a complaint from the shareholders, he has to receive the complaints properly and reply to the shareholders to solve the such complaints. So these are the functions towards the shareholders. Then office staff. As a office staff, the company secretary is the kingpin of the corporate machinery. He is responsible for the smooth functioning of the company. He is the overall supervision of the. He is responsible for the overall supervision and the control of the company, and also coordinate all the clerical activities of the office or company. So regarding the office staff, he is the kingpin of the corporate machinery. He is the responsible person for the smooth functioning of the office. He is having the power to overall control and supervision of the company, coordinate all the clerical works of the office or the company. So these are the non-statutory functions: relation to the directors, relation to the shareholders, and relation to staff or office. So this is very important question. You have to prepare well and mention the important act without any mistake. So the functions of the company secretary majorly classified into two types, namely statutory functions and non-statutory functions.